everybody. Welcome to Brentley Live, and we've got another Satanic Panic Freakout. As always, just seems like it's never ending. It's been going on for, well, we always talk about them being like different ones, you know, like one in the what was it, like in the 80s and 90s, right? And then there's like or no, there was one even earlier than that. That's right. There was like one in the 60s and 70s, and then we talk about one in the 80s and 90s, and they're just sort of always happening because that's the thing. They act like it's a different one. It's just the same one. It's just continuously going forever. So that is what's happening today. I found a video. It's more of these good fight people, which I hope that it doesn't get me a strike, because they tend to like put up a lot of copyrighted stuff. So if you see it live, hope I mean, if it gets me a copyright strike, I just have to delete it, because I'm on my way to getting monetized, hopefully. But so we're gonna, hopefully they don't do too much of that, but they like to show a lot of clips and stuff. And so we'll see what happens. If that, if it ends up being too much, we'll switch to something else. We got plenty we can watch. But I'll try to keep it on the Satanic Panic thread, since that's the theme of the day. So here we go.
Actor Tyrese, famous from the Fast and Furious series, says he's in competition in Tinseltown because Hollywood is trying to normalize the devil and putting him up on the main stage, as we look at the history of this strategy in the underbelly of La La Land.
La La Land. Whoa. That's loud. That's pretty loud.
Welcome back to the 511 News. I'm your host, Chad Davidson of Good Fight
Let me know
Ministries.
if that's too
And
loud
on
to you
today's
guys.
episode, we are going to be looking at, honestly, a historical perspective on the fact that Satan, the devil, has continued to be popularized in Hollywood. But before we do, I want to encourage you guys to make sure to
be
leave.
Fair, it was popularized by y'all. And Hollywood just sort of was like, I don't know, they're really scared of this thing. Let's put it in a movie, because then our movies will be more compelling to that group of people that are already afraid of this thing, and we'll just put it in movie form, and then they will be that much more into the movie that we're showing them. But yeah, okay.
A 5-star review if you're listening via podcast, or if you are on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to the Good Fight Ministries YouTube channel, because that's going to make sure you guys get to see all the videos that we come out with. We try to keep you guys updated on everything going on in the world, so you can best share the gospel with your neighbor.
Updated with like a slant of insane. Yeah, that's it.
Neighbor, and also that you can be edified and God would be glorified.
Of course.
So with all of that, a recent interview with the star actor Tyrese Gibson. And also,
okay, so I remember that I've already covered one person covering this. But yeah, I mean, but it wasn't the Good Fight people. If you're like, oh yeah, I remember this, it's because it was a different video, because they all, anytime any like actor or anything like mentions Satan or like the devil and stuff like that, they all jump on it. They all pounce. So that's
also artists and music artists and so forth, has really been going viral online, because people are pointing out something that at Good Fight Ministries, it's been pointed out for almost 40 years. And that is the fact that Satan is getting a part on the main stage. While it was somewhat subtle back in the day, it seems to be right at the forefront, being thrown in our faces each and every day, whether it's the Grammys, whether it's your favorite TV show or movie or music.
Okay, so just a quick recap. With the Grammys, it was I want to say Sam Smith, who did a performance of his song called Unholy. And because he's a member of the LGBTQIA plus community, he uses satanic imagery to kind of strike back at the people who continuously terrorize him with imagery that will terrorize them. So that's how that works. That's why they're using those images, because it scares you guys, and y'all are the ones out there making laws that limit their freedoms. So yeah, I mean, if they can't have their freedoms, they're at least going to scare you, you know?
It seems that Satan is front row. In fact, you're the one in front row sitting and looking at him on a stage. And I
What?
wanted to read something about Tyrese
What
because a
was
lot of
that?
people may know him, whether you were listening to his music back in the 90s. I know he's got a new album and so forth, but he's really been known a lot through either the Transformers movies
Holy
or
shit!
I guess recently
I
because
totally forgot he was in the Transformers, but I don't really watch those movies. So
they're on number 10 in the Fast and Furious series. But
yeah,
in that series, he has been quite popular. But he did write something that I want to point out because this was really interesting for a couple of reasons. Before we play the more recent clip, in a post in April of 2016, Tyrese quoted himself, it looks like, quote, "You know what's cool? Shocking the world by being exactly who you say you are." And in the description of that post wrote, quote, "Drug and alcohol free. I am grounded in my faith in the Lord Jesus Christ."
it's weird. I'm drug and alcohol free, and it's not because it's actually the opposite because I was a Christian and I was unable to stop doing all that stuff when I was a Christian, and it took me, dismantling all those beliefs to realize that they actually like drug and they like that you leave the faith and feel like you need something, and then you turn to drugs and alcohol so that you can end up ruining your life or whatever, making it a lot harder, and so that you have to return to religion. Religion loves drugs and alcohol.
And I have never and will never let anything or anyone compromise my spirituality or sexuality. If it's not clean, real,
What?
and honest, I don't care how fly or
How do you compromise your sexuality? What is that about? That's a telling statement right there, isn't it? I mean, it kind of seems like he's like, I'm trying not to be compromised. I gotta make sure I like women. I'm attracted to women. Okay, I'm not attracted to men. I'm not. I'm not though. Like, if you feel like you have to tell yourself that, man, I think there's something going on there. But I don't know. That's just really weird to say that your sexuality has been compromised. I mean, maybe he's talking about just like sleeping around. That could be possible because you're not allowed to do anything in Christianity. So, yeah.
glossy it looks, I don't want it. Now, I'm going to be honest, we're not going to read all of the quotation because not all of it can be read on the 511 News because of some of the language. And I do pray for those who may be ignorant when it comes to what the
Yeah.
Word of God says, whether it's Ephesians.
It's too funny when they're like sitting there talking about how good this Christian guy is, and yet he's literally breaking their rules in the same post that he's reading and has to blur parts of it out because he's using language they disapprove of.
Or in Colossians chapter 3, verse 2, or when you look at even Hosea 4:2 about profane language, you want to make sure people are watching their tongues, as James wrote about in chapter 3. But nonetheless, we do also want to give
they had tons of swear words back in the day, and the Christians back then were like, don't say that stuff.
grace to those who may be ignorant of
I
those
always wonder like what their fuck word would have been back then. Like what did they say instead of fuck? You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm just curious.
scriptures, and hopefully pray that people come alongside and share with them. I also do want to point out, I don't want to muddy all the water here, but I do want to point out Tyrese also recently has been on a show talking about.
Well, you've sufficiently done that because you basically said that he's so great that he's a Christian, but he's not. But you can't, but he's not being a good Christian because he's swearing. That's
Old
pretty muddy water.
exploits that shouldn't be talked about either in public. And so we don't want to whitewash everything and say everything that is being said is true. But the recent comments really have kind of piqued our interest. Not only the ones that we're going to be playing here in a second, but the one he just mentioned. He's not going to compromise his sexuality, specifically when it comes to playing roles in Hollywood. And this is something we have covered on the 511 News.
Okay, that might. Okay, now I see. He's like, I refuse to play a gay guy. Okay, or a drag queen or something. I don't know.
Past, as well as at Good Fight Ministries for a number of years. And it is the fact that, guess what? Hollywood has continued to try to take big, buff, strong men and dress them up as women. They've done it with Arnold Schwarzenegger as they made him pregnant in the movie Junior, and he himself has dressed up as a woman in a number of roles. They did this with Wesley Snipes.
Yeah, it's just like because drag is entertaining, like it just is, and I think when they can make a big, strong guy like like when they can make him look feminine and it's actually convincing, it's just there's something entertaining about that it's just something that fascinates audiences, I think. But obviously there's nothing wrong with it. Like, drag is a gas, man. Drag is fun. If you've ever been to a drag show, it is a fucking good time. And it's one of those places, like, I swear, like, going to like gay bars and stuff, it's like the most judge-free place you can be. And I love it. That was just so much fun. You can just be yourself. You don't have to worry about, I mean, I already do that most of the time anyway, because let's face it, I'm awesome. So, no, I'm just kidding. But no, I don't have a filter. I'm not very good at that anyway. So, but for like most people, it's like, and even then I can crank up the crazy and nobody cares. It's awesome.
This with Patrick Swayze. Over and over again, Hollywood has said, let's take these manly men that are known for their manly roles and let's dress them up as women. And guess what? It's not just my opinion that this happens.
That's so evil. So what? Who cares, man? It's so weird.
Dave Chappelle actually sat down in the actor's studio and expressed exactly what happened to him when he was in a role and they came in and said, we're going to dress you up as a woman. And he said, I ain't putting up with that.
I mean, I'm a conspiracy theorist to a degree.
Oh, like not to a degree. He is a conspiracy theorist and is swayed by the dumbest shit. Like, he is a smart guy for the most part, I think, but like, he is swayed by some stupid shit. And he refuses to understand certain things because it makes him uncomfortable to learn things about it. And so he just kind of hangs out and stupid. You know what I mean? Just
connect dots that maybe shouldn't be connected. I don't know. But certain dots, like when I see that they put every black man in the movies in a dress at some point in their career, I'll be connecting that dot like, wow, these brothers got to wear a dress. That's happened to me. I'm doing a movie with Martin.
Yeah.
The movie's going good. So I walk in a trailer. I'm like, man, this must be the wrong trailer because there's a dress in here. They come in.
That Oprah face.
The writer comes in. I think he's the writer. He's like, Dave, listen, we got this hilarious scene where Martin's sneaking out of jail. So he disguises you as a prostitute. And he put this dress on and what? A prostitute? No, I'm not doing that. I don't feel comfortable with that. That should have been in a discussion. What? You don't feel comfortable with it? I mean, it's a hilarious bit. All the greats have done it.
How do they hold on? I feel like this whole thing is kind of contrived because, like, how do you sign on for a movie and you don't know one of the key scenes in the movie of getting him out? There's a whole scene where he gets him out of jail. It's the movie. I think it's the movie Blue Streak, if I remember correctly. Yeah, Blue Streak, where Martin Lawrence is like a thief and he steals a diamond, and then he like drops it and it goes into a vent, and he goes to jail, gets caught and gets out of jail, goes back to get the diamond where it was, and it turns out the building that was being built that he left it in the vent turned into a police station. So then he had to pretend to be a cop. So it's a lot of like pretending to be stuff in the movie, and it's pretty funny. It's a pretty decent movie. And so, yeah, it makes sense that would be in the movie, but like, how do you have a key part like that without knowing that? Would they just made that part up? I highly doubt that that's the way this all went down. I kind of think that this was probably something that he didn't agree to initially, and then had them change the script. It was like, I'll be in the movie, but you got to take this part out beforehand. Not like, oh, I walked into the dressing room and now they got to dress. Like, you don't know the next scene you're going to be in. Come on, give me a break.
It's kind of hacky, right? You're right. So why don't we just not do it? Because I don't feel comfortable wearing a dress. Oh, come on, Dave. Listen, we got it all set up. We're supposed to shoot. Every minute you waste costs this much money. The pressure comes in. He said, I'm not wearing no dress, man. I'm funnier than a dress. Just give me something funny to say. I don't need to wear no dress to be funny. What am I, Milton Berle? We're going like this. And then finally he's like, and he leaves. And then like the director comes, Dave, it really would be great if you wear the dress. What is wrong? What is this, Brokeback Mountain in here? So then,
how old is Brokeback Mountain? Why am I feel like I'm thinking it's like a different, man, it just feels really, maybe how like it's weird when you think things are more recent than they are. And then you're looking at this, it's like real clearly very old. And you know, but weird. Okay. It's just strange.
Wear the dress. I don't want to wear the dress. I want to wear this dress. You know what I mean? This is, oh gosh, it's so difficult. They leave. Now the producers comes, come on, David would be so great. I mean, and then I started thinking about it. All the comics that I've seen, you know, strong brothers, why they putting us in these dresses? But the minute it was clear, I was adamant, I'm not wearing a dress. I'm not wearing the dress. All right, fine. Think of something else. That comes back 10 minutes later, the whole new scene. How did you write the scene so fast? You know, it's like, so you gotta take a stand.
And so it is interesting that Tyrese
so
would speak
weird.
to this,
So
and maybe, and
he's like making it into something like it's a conspiracy to like get everybody, you know, all like black men. And don't get me wrong, like there's definitely racism that goes on in Hollywood for goddamn sure. But I don't think it's to put, you know, them in dress, because like they mentioned at the beginning, like tons of people have done this. You know, Arnold Schwarzenegger did it. You know, just tons of people have done it. I mean, I want to say like wrestlers and stuff, and I think that's just because it's funny. You know, it's like entertaining to see somebody that has like such masculine features, and then be able to have them dress up in drag and it be convincing. It's just entertaining to see. It's like, whoa, how do they do that?
I do hope, and I pray for his soul, and I really pray that he comes to a true, if he's not already in, and maybe he's somebody who needs to grow. I don't know all of his background, but we want to make sure that we do keep him in prayer, because he does seem to see some of the stuff that's going on. And sometimes when you see that discussed, you say, you know what, there has to be true light in that.
This is why like people in Hollywood shouldn't say stupid shit like that, because then idiots like this pick up on it and are like, oh, let's run with that. That's because of Satan.
Light is in Jesus Christ. And so that is important. And I want you guys to hear this clip, because I do think he has a lot of good things to say. And I'm going to be bringing on Pastor Joe Schimmel with me to talk about not only the history of this, not only being in Hollywood, but even in music and TV and so forth.
As much as I'm supposed to be promoting this movie and talking about my album, I just feel like we're in competition right now, because they are trying to normalize the devil. They are trying to populate.
What does that mean?
The devil is on the main stage at award shows and in every video and signs and symbols. And I said, you know what? We need to stop treating our relationship with Jesus like the little buddy that you talk to before you go to bed at night, and not be more vocal about all the things that God means to us and all of the things that God has brought us through. Because there's been a lot of moments that you didn't post about, but yet
What is he talking about?
how did God decide to get me through this?
Yeah, man.
What?
What
is it?
Yeah.
What does any of this
above and
mean?
beyond to promote the devil. And it's pissing me off, because they used to, devil worshipers used to be real secretive, going down in the basement, this secret.
There aren't any devil worshipers, man. The Satanists that are out there don't believe in the devil, and the people that you're talking about use the imagery because it scares you.
Now they just
they on the device too.
As I said, we wanted to bring on Pastor Joe for this, because these are very interesting comments. Because Joe, this is something you've been exposing for a while. I mean, over 40 years. Actually, I think I got the time right. But as an official entity that Good Fight Ministry is, just a little under 40 years.
It's the same guy.
It's important for us to talk about this, because I really...
This is the guy, I'm almost positive, that has done the voice. He does They Sold Their Souls for Rock and Roll movies. The you know, just YouTube videos or whatever. But they like are all about like how Satan... you know, they all sell their soul to Satan in order to get good at music and then get a platform or whatever.
I really want people to realize like what he's saying there. It's great that it's being out there. This is on Big Boy's show. This is not a small little entity. This is going viral. People are starting to realize, wait a second, why is Satan being...
He seems to really like that word entity. Like,
pushed in front of our face so just prevalently now.
Yeah, it's really amazing, Chad, that at the end of his that little interview section, he mentions that it used to be done in secret. These guys, these Satanists in Hollywood and stuff, and he obviously knew they were at work, right? Working like in their basements and so forth, secretively. But now they're in your face, you know, with, you know, the war shows and so forth, which we've exposed many of them through the years, right? It's crazy because when you think about it, you know,
you just like found connections and things that weren't actually connected, and just like created the narrative in your head by finding patterns. You know, that's all. And you just like you know, anyway.
The prince of power of the air, it says in Ephesians 2,
So
who guides the course of this world as he works through the children of disobedience. But the scriptures let us know it would become more in your face.
He works through the children of disobedience. What the fuck? What are they talking about? The children of disobedience. That sounds like a metal band. We are the children of disobedience.
And
A really cheesy
right?
metal.
We know that because it's interesting. In your introduction, Chad, you mentioned Satan, the devil. You used two of his titles in one sentence. That's interesting because it makes me think of Revelation 12, verse 9. It talks about Satan being the deceiver, and it says Satan, the devil, Satanas, the diabolos, the slander. And then it also mentions him being the old serpent. And it mentions him being the dragon, right? And that same passage calls him the accuser of the brethren. 5 titles, but 4 in 1. But the dragon, it's interesting because
this is so weird. It's like, oh, and if they say the name of the devil and Satan and the evil one, oh, then that's, you know, they're quoting the Bible. It's just like that Bible verse. And that means Revelation is happening right now. Just like, wow, man, y'all will like take anything and make it into something.
That's a picture of Satan. When you get to Revelation 13:4, it's interesting. They're going to worship the beast, the Antichrist, the world, every nation, people, and tongue. We're going to worship the Antichrist. Yet it says very specifically.
Can you imagine that?
4,
like, can you imagine for a second if what they were saying was actually real and some guy like being like, all right, now I need y'all to worship me, okay? Like, I just need you to do that, okay? And they're like, okay, you need us to worship me, okay? We're gonna get right on that, okay? Everybody start bowing. This is weird. Nobody like, you know. I think the only thing that could come close to it would be how the Trump, you know, the Trump people are insane about Trump. But you know, it's still that like they're not worshiping him. It's not like they're out like bowing to him and stuff. They praise him a lot, you know, by saying like how great he just says it how it is, you know.
And they worship the dragon. That's Satan. and
Say
they
this
worship the
stuff,
dragon who
man.
gave his authority to the beast. And
they worship the dragon. And that's not immediately followed by, but that's stupid. That doesn't make any sense. Why would I say that? That's you know.
Worship the beast, saying who can make war with the beast. So Chad, it blows me away that the Bible says the entire world, every nation, people, and tongue in that context are going to be knowing devil worshipers at some point.
What I find fascinating, I think
they're going to be knowing devil worshipers at some point. They are going to be knowingly devil worship. I'm so confused.
All that is very interesting because we do want to understand this always from a biblical perspective and not just simply be like, oh, well, here's some crazy things going on. Let's talk.
You got to start with the presupposition that your weird, crazy, nonsensical book is all true, and then go from there. That's where you got to.
Well, crazy it is, but there's a biblical perspective. There's a reason why these things might have been done under dark, so to speak, and now they're just right in our face. And when you hear Tyrese also speaking there, that he even considers himself.
Weren't there like movies? Like, what's that one movie? The one that was so cool with the guy that played it, Legend, right? Tim Curry, yeah, and he played the devil. That was like forever ago. Like, what are you talking about? Like the devil. What was the Devil's Advocate? That was how long ago? Like, it's been all over the place, for so long. Because it's just an embodiment of the narrative of good versus evil, and he's the embodiment of evil. Like, yeah, of course they're going to use that symbolism for a character that's supposed to represent evil, and y'all are so dumb you think it's all like that means it's true, like come on.
Self to be in competition. Now, Fast and Furious series is not some biblical, series where
god awful movies just did the 10th one, so pretty, it's a Christian movie.
We can get the gospel out. It's not in there.
Right?
Nor definitely not Transformers. I think we could talk about that in the subtlety.
Why was he so against the Transformers? That is totally not Christian. That is just not. It's Mormon actually, and we were against that. What are you talking about?
Of it all and how this stuff has been, pushed on us subtly. But you look at that and you hear him say that he feels like he himself just not being openly satanic is actually a competition now. And I found that to be interesting alongside some honestly good advice. There was some
name me one person that's like openly like, yeah, so for realsies I worship devils. Like nobody. The only thing they can point to is like art that uses satanic imagery in the art to make it that much more compelling. That's it. And look, and it works. Because now y'all are just running around here like giving them extra press for doing that. And that's kind of, I feel like they know that they're doing that. And I think they're sitting back laughing at y'all because, like, look, they're all freaked out. They all think it's real. Oh, man.
Good advice there. And
Like,
when he says we need to stop treating Jesus as he's just in the back pocket kind of thing, you know, like, oh, whatever, and not realize he's the one who
you keep Jesus in your back pocket. That's a weird way to say that. Should be in your front pocket, you know, or you know, if you bring back the cargo pants, and then you can be in one of those really big pockets so you can just get to it real quick.
ultimately it's how
What the fuck were those pockets ever for? Like, what were you carrying in those? Is it supposed to be like so you can carry a MRE, a meal ready to eat or whatever? Like,
we get our victory. And in Revelation chapter 12, they gain the victory over what? The beast.
That's right.
They gain the victory of the beast by the blood of the Lamb. So by Jesus.
it's so funny when they say, like, do stuff like that, where they'll just stop it, and they gain victory over what? Like, that's right, the beast. You were gonna say it. What the fuck? Why do they know that they're gonna say stuff like that? You know?
This and his
So
poured out blood
weird.
for our sins.
Amen.
And by the word of their testimony, because they do not love their life.
Amen.
Even
Preach it.
unto death.
Preach it,
This
brother.
is not about taking control of Hollywood and making sure we have all Christian actors. But what it is saying, you know what? I don't care if it's the end times. I don't care what it is. We're going to be
But
fortified.
that's really what you want, though, right?
And we're going to have victory in Christ through his blood. And even if it means we go to death for it. And
What?
Joe, I thought, and it's funny, when I had first heard the clip and said, Joe, we got to talk about this on a show, I didn't even finish the clip out.
Yeah.
But that last part, as you mentioned, done in secret, was the thing that just, wow, it was just incredible, because you got to hear this, because we
Okay.
want to see
I'm
some other
ready.
perspective. We've already talked about Dave Chappelle. We talked
Let's do
about Tyrese, warning about some of the stuff that they've pushed on them. But
Yep.
look at this. Listen to Eddie Murphy talk about famed comedian Sammy Davis Jr. And I know you got a little bit of background as well in terms of that. But listen to him talk about his interactions and what Sammy Davis Jr. was really all about.
Sammy told me he worshiped the devil. We were in Dan Tana's, and Sammy was like, you know, Satan is as powerful as God. He says, why do you think there's so much anger in the world and killing and murder and Satan, the candles on the table and Sammy's face over the candle? You know, Satan is as powerful as God.
Wow. I think that's pretty interesting.
I think that was a bit. I don't know. I mean, it sounds like just a philosophical conversation about Satan and stuff, and the fact that God hasn't defeated him right from the get, even though he was like so powerful, and the devil's not powerful, and the devil just keeps on messing with God's plan, but he just keeps on letting him exist.
I think one of the
I don't know.
interesting things is that he saw Eddie Murphy's face and was like, yeah, I don't want any part of that.
Yeah, it's quite crazy, because it's almost as though
Because it's
Sammy was
ridiculous.
coming off as though all of us are Satanists, aren't we? In Hollywood, you know? And
What?
then, you know, I don't know exactly.
Is that what y'all got? That's not what I got. Because we're all Satanists. Don't talk about it. Don't you stop talking about it. It's secret.
Where the other one is that, but I'll say this is Sammy was a card-carrying member, so to speak, of the Church of Satan, as was Jane Mansfield, Jane Mansfield was huge in Hollywood at the time. And
The Satanic
but right
Temple?
now, I mean, but a lot of people kept it secret, right? Now, you know, when the heavy metal era and all that stuff started coming about, and then Marilyn Manson.
So Spooky said Sammy Davis Jr. converted to Judaism. Okay. That's quite a step away from Satan. Just saying, you know.
Was a card-carrying member of the Church of Satan. Then they became more brazen, right? So now we're living in a time where even actors are coming out just shouting it from the rooftops. And he's right. We should be shouting Jesus from the rooftops, folks, because he's the Lord of all.
Amen. And one of the things
they sound so weird, and then we should be shouting Jesus. What are you gonna do? You're gonna go to the rooftop and be like, Jesus. All right. Well, that feels better. That just, you know, that felt good. It felt good to get that out like that.
recently talked about. It's actually in an upcoming episode that we've done, answering some of the fallacious things stated by Arnold Schwarzenegger. And one of the things you had mentioned,
don't say fallacious, like, you know what it means. Just stop.
Quote, because this is about normalizing.
They say fallacious when it's like, but that's not my theology.
Satan worship, and it comes in different forms.
Yeah.
And in fact, he was sitting down with Danny DeVito, who's been in a recent show, and they talk about even the normalization of Satan in that show as well.
Yeah, and that's Little Demon, right? And that show was getting a lot of fanfare for a while.
Because it's
like
funny.
Christians objected because
Oh my God, it's a comedy show. It's like if they take the what's that other one? I can't remember what it's called, but it's like a conspiracy show. Like that's like as if all the conspiracies are true and there's like reptilian humanoids and shit. It's actually pretty funny. I'm not a big fan of cartoon comedies, but I did enjoy that just because I got like all the references. You know?
Vito plays the devil, and he has sex with a woman who's a sex partner, Aubrey Plaza, and then his daughter actually plays.
Yeah, that's how sex works. He had sex with someone who just so happened to be a sex partner, and
Is the Antichrist. So you have Satan having sexual relations with, one who is a Wiccan witch in the show, promoting all kinds of Satanism. Some say, oh, well, she's promoting Wiccanism. Well, you look at the roots of Wiccanism, it goes back right to Gerald Gardner and Aleister Crowley and Satanism. And by the way, in the program, Aubrey Plaza, when she is involved in her witchcraft, she's sacrificing goats. She's doing using all kinds of Satan. It's Satanism, it's pretty obvious. I mean, she's one with Satan, has the Antichrist as her child. So it's pretty clear what they're about. And she literally says,
I love that we are normalizing paganism,
And she's basically saying we're normalizing Satanism because that's
what. So funny too. Like, and I swear, like that's April. I don't know her name. That's April Ludgate. I don't know what her actual name is, but like she just seems like she just is April Ludgate in real life. Like she's just trolling everybody,
The brand of paganism, which is all paganism that's anti-Christ, anti-God. All paganism is really
no, not necessarily, man. Like paganism just means you believe in multiple gods, right? Like it's not. They're just different gods and stuff, right? I mean, I don't know much about paganism, so I could be mistaken on that. But do they worship Satan in paganism? I don't think so. I don't think they do. I don't know, but I could be wrong. Maybe that's a version of it. I don't know.
Occultism and Satanism and earth worship, and comes in many forms. But Chad, it's interesting. I read an interview when I was checking that whole thing out, and I wanted to get to more in depth and to understand.
I feel like he's oh man, see, this is why y'all got to edit, man. He's like, I forgot what I was talking about. I forgot to take my Ritalin today, and so I'm just kind of I'm in a fog right now. What you talk now? You talk.
Standing Aubrey Plaza, because she
Aubrey
came to Hollywood,
Plaza,
she dressed up like a witch, went down Sunset dressed like a witch. That was her introduction. She dressed like a witch. She identifies as a witch. And listen to what happened when she said in an interview with LA Weekly. I thought this was really interesting. This is an interview with LA Weekly I was reading, and the reporter ends her interview with Plaza saying this. So after the interview, this is April Wolf. I'm at home listening to my recording of our conversation when I hear myself leave Plaza's hotel room momentarily. I left the recorder on, she says, while I was gone, before I can speed through what I expected to be ambient noise or sounds of shuffling. However, she says that instead, quote, I heard a demonic voice growl coming from the recorder. Satan, 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 it yelled. And it was Plaza.
Wow.
Oh my God.
And, Plaza is known for her comedic performances. That's what she's most known for, and really being way out there and very interesting person. And Joe, one of the things when I was researching this, and I just put together,
you use the word interesting interchangeably with evil from the pit of hell.
a few of these videos. I want to kind of go through them a little bit before we show also that the biggest, guys, we're talking about the biggest cinematic universe in the world in terms of how much money they produce. More people have seen their movies. And to show the Antichrist agenda behind that, even in this episode, we're going to be talking about that. I want to just show how they've used comedy to ultimately push this. And so starting back, I'm just going to go back, and obviously we could go even further back and go into more movies, but I'm just going to go through a list of comedies and also one film that has a fan favorite, we should say, involved in a lot of the production and in the movie that gets people, oh, that's kind of interesting that he would be in a movie that did this. But 1987, The Witches of Eastwick. This is a film with Cher and Jack Nicholson. And I'm telling you this because this is a film that I saw.
I totally forgot about that movie. I need to go back and watch that. Yeah, I remember that being pretty good. But yeah, they have all sorts of classic witch movies, man. They come out during Halloween. Go figure.
Young kid. In the plot, The Witches of Eastwick, Michelle Pfeiffer is involved in this film as well. They want to conjure up a dark and handsome man. And so they get one in Jack Nicholson. The only problem is Jack Nicholson ends up being the devil. That's who they conjure up.
Whoops.
And he ends up seducing women and so forth. And I remember even as a young kid being appalled by it and being like, well, you know, I wasn't even a Christian and but I still was like,
Right.
I don't want to sit there and watch a movie where the devil is seducing women. And I remember,
Come on, if you weren't a Christian, why would that bother you in any way, shape, or form? The only way that it could possibly bother you is if you were a Christian, or that your parents were Christian and they, you know, sufficiently scared you of like devil stuff. That's the only possible way you would be like, oh no, the devil's seducing people. Oh boy. Like, why would you think that? Like,
I remember turning it off. But then you can go into 1999 with South Park and you can see Satan actually being somewhat of a good guy. He's a gay lover of Saddam Hussein in hell and so forth. But ultimately,
that's a good guy being the lover of Saddam Hussein. Come on, man.
Ends up actually being kind of a nice guy. Then they can make the devil sexy in Bedazzled.
Why were you watching that? Like, you were allowed to watch South Park? What the fuck? I swear, like, they do these things so they can get away with just like watching like decent movies. You know, it was research, it was purely research. Okay, I didn't enjoy it. I watched it specifically to not enjoy it. That's why I watched it.
As Elizabeth Hurley plays Bedazzled alongside Brendan Fraser, and he gets these wishes, but then at the end he's sacrificed.
They always bring up this movie too. It's so funny, and it's like the movie's clearly just a joke. It's a spoof on the whole concept.
Sacrifices himself, so ultimately he gets saved out of the deal to sell his soul because he did one kind act toward the end. Then we also have Little Nicky with Adam Sandler, who plays the role of Little Nicky, a deformed child of Satan and an angel, played by Reese Witherspoon. How they came together, and guess what? They have this deformed son who's not ruling in hell.
All the movies where Adam Sandler does that like weird like voice that he does, it cringes me. I can't watch Waterboy. I can't watch Little Nicky. I can't watch any of those movies. Like even parts of Billy Madison, which I do like Billy Madison, but like there are parts of it where I'm like, oh my God, stop talking like that. You're freaking me out, man.
Hell, he's just living on Earth doing his thing with all sorts of comedic performances where Adolf Hitler makes appearances and so forth in hell. And it's a sad thing. Joe Namath, whatever it may be, they're over there in this movie. Another one just making jokes. Now, Joe, I want to pause through this list because Constantine with Keanu Reeves, and a lot of Christians I know are huge Keanu Reeves fans. Oh, look at how nice he is. We should have videos of him getting up on subways and letting ladies have their seat. But Constantine was an evil film that you exposed in Hollywood's War on God.
It's crazy that's what's seen as like being a really, really nice guy and for like rich people. Like, wow, he didn't make someone stand on the subway, and he stood. So that's a good guy right there.
Well,
in the movie
although I know he's done a bunch of other stuff too. That is he's the nicest guy ever. I'd appreciate if his acting was a little better, but he's like the opposite of Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is a complete asshole, but he's a great actor.
Constantine, based upon yet another graphic novel by Alan Moore. Keanu Reeves' character is made to make occult power look good. Here we see Reeves on the movie poster with his occult-powered gun, accentuating the cross, which in this case is obviously inverted for the poster.
Oh,
Constantine is based upon a graphic novel by Alan Moore called Don.
Look, it's an upside-down cross. Oh, evil. He uses the magic powers to kill demons. He's a demon hunter in that movie. And it pissed me off because he's not British and he doesn't have blonde hair. It was fucked up for them to cast him like that, man. It was bullshit. It wasn't true to the source material. I'm not even gonna get on this. I'm not even gonna do it.
On Constantine Hellblazer, who, as we've seen, also wrote V for Vendetta.
Fired up.
The movie features fallen angels and dialogue with the devil. In the graphic novel, part of John Constantine becomes one with the body of Satanist Aleister Crowley and is cast into hell.
And then we can look at another comedy, back to the comedy variety, Tenacious D in 2006 with the Pick of Destiny, another comedy variety where Satan is at play again.
I forgot about that one. Man, that was a funny movie. It was like the Devil's Tooth or something, and it made you able to like shred guitar or whatever. And it's kind of playing off of that whole the stuff that they love. Their whole thing about selling their soul to the devil to like get good at guitar and stuff. They love that whole thing. It's like I think that movie was like kind of spoofing that whole concept.
And you've already talked about Aubrey Plaza, which is even more recent, but I want to go back to the show Lucifer with a good-looking man playing Lucifer, a love story that
people kept telling me to get into that. You know what it is? I think it's one of those actually like big, I don't know what you would call them, like primetime television shows where you get like 3 minutes of plot and then the rest is filler. Like X-Files and stuff like that, where it's just like and it's just they're like 24 episodes in a season. No, man. Give me like the Stranger Things, like 6 or 7 episodes and move the fuck on.
First was on Fox and then moved over to Netflix. And that show lasted from 2016 to 2021. And so what we have here, Joe, and this one specifically a TV series that was popularized and just portrayed Lucifer as a handsome,
was on the WB. That's right. Okay.
Dashing,
that makes sense.
Funny young guy.
Yeah, Chad, it's really interesting that you mentioned when you went through that segment of
he said that's so weird. He's a dashing, funny young guy. And he's the devil. And which that's bad because he can't be funny and the devil. This is just crazy talk.
Whether it's Satan bedazzling through comedic roles or through the Witches of Eastwick, they're summoning this tall, dark, handsome guy. It ends up being the devil. And then you went through a litany of these different, movies and shows and so forth. And it's interesting, though, a very popular show based on a comic character, Lucifer Morningstar. Lucifer is one of the names used historically for the devil.
Which is so funny. Morningstar is also the name of Jesus in parts of the Bible because the Bible's that inconsistent.
The morning star is right out of Isaiah 14 of the devil and his fall. And it's quite interesting because, as you were saying, he's made to look good in Hollywood. And of course, that's because Hollywood is basically his mouthpiece. But it's interesting, in the very first season, God is made to be portrayed as evil and Satan is portrayed as good, just like Isaiah 5 says.
I'm surprised they haven't gone into like Good Omens. Why haven't we gotten to that one yet? Like, because isn't that like a whole thing about like the devil and Michael or something? And they're like, I can't remember. I remember I enjoyed a couple episodes. I need to go back and watch that show. I did like it.
Darkness.
And that's that one guy. Oh man, what's his name? Oh, he did the Coraline movie. Yeah, anyway, he's a really, really good writer. He did the Sandman series as well. It's just like he's just really creative. Like
darkness for light, light for darkness. They're called good, evil, evil, good. So the comic character, now the TV hero, right? This Lucifer Morningstar.
Oh, back to that. Yeah.
Basically just radically blasphemes God and goes on this wicked diatribe, this tyrant against God, and he says, "You cruel, manipulative blank," and he just goes and blames him for all the problems in the world.
He said blank. Oh, that's so funny. Oh, that's loud. Okay.
You cruel, manipulative. Is this all part of your plan?
Blank. He said it.
It's all just a game to you, isn't it? Hey?
Isn't it?
What?
Why do they say "isn't it" so much? It's kind of weird. I don't know. So I feel like that's like "dude" down here in Florida. Like we say, "Yeah, dude." And they're like, "Yeah, isn't it?"
I know punishment.
Like perversion.
And he did not deserve that.
Oh, it was Spooky said that it's a book. Oh, I didn't know that. I do like that author guy. I can't think of his name. Oh, it's driving me crazy. If you can let me know his name, that'd be great because it's driving me crazy. I know I like his work. I've read, I read the whole Sandman series, and now I can't. Wow.
He followed your stupid rules, and it still wasn't good enough. So what does it take to please you? Break your rules and you fall, follow them and you still lose.
It's incredible that he says your stupid rules. He blasphemes God, then he says your stupid rules, like love your neighbor as yourself. Like,
oh, come on, man. That's not what. Yeah, that's the rule that y'all just follow constantly. That's the main rule you guys think about. Jeez Louise. Not like gay people are neighbors too, man. Like
golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Like pray for your enemies, like love your enemies. Satan is the one who seeks to deceive people, and then he's the ultimate.
That was it. He's out of the good things Jesus said. That's it. That's the bottom of the bucket right there.
Narc, man, because he tries to get people to do evil. Then he's complaining to God, you have to damn them because they've done evil. He's not a cool dude at all. And the amazing thing to me is when you think about this, God gives us moral laws because he loves.
See what I mean with the American dude thing? See, I'm telling you, it's It's American for isn't it?
Loves us. We're not saved through those moral laws. We're saved through the gospel of Jesus Christ. He gives us those moral laws, just like we put up a guardrail on a canyon so a car doesn't go careening off. But in our case, he doesn't want us to careen off the planet into eternal hell. So he tries to guard us and guide us and protect us.
Perfect analogy, man. Perfect analogy. That doesn't break down at all.
To bring us ultimately to his son.
Amen. And as we've already talked about in this very episode, the lie that we don't have victory, the Bible actually says that we are more than conquerors through him who loves us.
Amen, bro.
And so we live a life of victory. In fact, you may have battles that you could lose, but we get to fight a won war. It was won on the cross. And so we get to now go forth and proclaim the gospel against all of these principalities and powers. And Joe, we need to also look at the things that people are meditating on. The Bible is very clear in Psalm chapter 1.
It's funny too, they're talking about like, oh, Jesus won the war on the cross and all that stuff. It's so interesting. Recently, I've been Bart Ehrman's kind of like on this little tour thing for this class that he's teaching about Paul and Jesus, and the fact that Paul most likely did not even know the teachings of Jesus. He recites him like 3 times. And Neil Gaiman, thank you. Oh my good God. Oh, thank you. Oh, okay, now I can relax. Oh, I was clenched. I was clenching, because of that. It had me all clenched. It's not good for my sciatic. Yeah, good. Oh man, internet's going slow for some reason. Sorry about that.
You meditate on God's word day and night, you are going to be like the tree planted against the water that bears fruit in its season. But if you do not, and you sit in the seat of scoffers, and that's what you're meditating on, guys.
Oh, but my point was that Paul, Paul created like a whole new thing that was not really like, if you look at the teachings of Jesus and stuff versus the teachings of Paul, and really not the teachings, but the letters that Paul wrote. Thanks. Spooky's good people right there, appreciate it. And they're 2 different belief systems, just completely different structures of like what the religions would have been. And because Jesus was talking about following the Old Testament and all this other stuff, talking about my father's laws and everything, and Paul was like, he took Jesus as like a character and said you just got to believe in him, and that's where all that comes from. But Jesus never said a lot of the stuff that Paul was saying. It's interesting how the religion morphs over time,
You will be like the bark that's broken off. You wonder why kids are deconstructing? Maybe it's because the things that they love the most as a kid is not going to youth group, but actually what's on their beats when they're sitting around and can't even sit at dinner without.
Yeah, because youth group sucks. Not to mention you're at risk of being groomed and abused. So just saying, like that's, you're way more likely to be groomed and abused in a youth group than you are at any kind of drag performance. That's for sure.
Listening to their music, and guess what?
That's statistically the case, like based on the pure numbers. I'm not saying like I just think it's likely. It's likely based on the fucking numbers.
Some of the songs you want to talk about promoting the devil, they're getting it in every facet. And in fact, on TikTok, a lot of these songs get played as background music, and people don't even realize that they may be watching some girl dance around to this, because sadly that's a lot of what people are watching. But a lot of these,
why is that sad? How dare they just watching people dance? That's ridiculous. I mean, have you seen some of the latest moves? They're incredible. They look like they're rubber, dude. Okay, it's incredible what they can do on TikTok. I'm not a big fan of TikTok because it makes me feel like my ADD's just spun out of fucking control. But yeah, the dancing though, it's pretty cool. I gotta say, they look like they're just gliding all over the floor. It's crazy.
Artists and their songs are being played in the background. So Joe, let's do a quick history dive, and we'll end on the most modern one.
Okay, good.
But Rolling Stones, they have a song called what? If we're going to talk about it, this is exactly what's going on. Sympathy for the Devil.
Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm Nate.
Oh, see, there goes my copyright strike. God
when you look at, Mick Jagger singing there with Sympathy for the Devil, that's the one. That's one of the ones that stuck out.
I swear they can't do a fucking video without getting a copyright, getting a copyright. I don't know what the hell they're doing. I guess if it's a ministry, it doesn't matter. Fucking ass. Now I'm probably gonna.
As he's sitting there talking about how he's the one who had Pilate wash his hands and seal his fate, right? And he's sitting there, and guess what? do you know my name? Is basically what he's asking, you know,
Yeah.
and so forth.
Yeah, I ran into a publicist.
It's not basically. I mean, he's definitely. It's just that's just what the lyrics of the song are.
Recently, and a
In
friend
so many words. You know?
of mine.
Yeah, the
and she's
exact
like-
words.
She goes, you know what, Joe? She goes, you ruined Rolling Stones for me. She goes, when I watched your video, they sold their souls for rock and roll, and they're singing "Sympathy for the Devil." By the way, John Lennon's there, Paul McCartney.
See, I would cover those, but like they give me strikes every single time, and they're fucking hilarious. This dude's like 30 years old or something. He's like super young, tiny little guy, and yeah, they're hilarious. Oh my gosh,
jamming with, sitting in the big party, all dressed up in weird clothes, and he says, and they're singing "Sympathy for the Devil." He goes, you showed him basically bowing down to Satan, and I show him rip open his shirt, and there's a Satan is on his chest, and he bows down. That's Mick Jagger. I mean, the devil worship can happen a long time. That's what these guys are about.
That was the weirdest one. He rips open his shirt, and there's the devil. This is Nick Jagger. That's what I'm doing right now. It's Nick Jagger this one. Anyway, I just wanted to clear that up. But I wanted to make sure.
It's where they get a lot of their songs. That's how they rise to fame. But Jesus says, what a profit, man, right, Chad?
Funny.
If you gain the whole world and you lose your soul. I'll just go back a little bit. AC/DC, because they're still played all over the place. Highway to Hell. You know, he says,
here we go again. God damn it. I should have ended this one early.
that's what they sing. That he paid my dues playing in a rocking band, right? Iron Maiden, 666, the number of the beast. It's the one for you and me.
Oh, God. All right, you know what? Hopefully I can catch this before it gives me that strike, and we'll just go see something else. Because, God damn it. Stop it with the shit. All right, let's see what else we got here. What do we got here? I feel like I did already, unless this is a different one. Oh, this is a different one. What is with all the this is the second one I've seen that says Peter Pan is actually a demon. Okay, sorry, we're gonna have to see what's going on with the
on this idea
demon.
Of what is
Peter Pan?
And honestly, the deeper I dug, the more disturbing it got. And at this point, I think that not only is he something very insidious, but I believe that he is actually a demon and that he is evil.
In real life, like,
now,
what are you
I know
talking
on the surface
about?
this sounds really crazy. It's actually a shocking amount of evidence looking at the origins of Peter
Don't say evidence. Don't use that word. Come on, man.
Pan, it over time,
Grow
and then
up.
looking at the historical side with the author. Now, spoiler alert, the author of this book was obsessed with these children, and he wrote this book for them and about them. I personally am very disturbed
That's kinda
by
creepy.
the aspect of the
I'm gonna be
author
honest
J.M.
here.
Barrie and his involvement with these children, the death of their parents, and according to some sources, he became an unofficial guardian to the boys. I'm going to make a full video in the future about that because there's so much there. And when you look at a surface level,
that's
it
probably
seems
gross.
very innocent, but the deeper you look, the more disturbing it is. So this video is just talking about Peter Pan, why he is evil, and then we are going to talk over how
Why
he
Peter Pan
connects a
is
little
evil.
bit to the author.
Like, that doesn't surprise me one bit that like the author was like gross and stuff back then. It was like a creeper and shit. That doesn't, but the fact that he was like, oh yeah, and I wrote a character to be a demon, that doesn't follow.
So in this video, we're not talking about the Walt Disney one necessarily. We're going to be going back to before that.
Oh.
But you're going to notice that a lot of the things that you see in the Disney version are there from the original version, which has
Yeah, it's almost like it's the same fucking story, man.
disturbing elements. They're still trickled in, but they've been kind of lessened over time. So originally the concept of Peter Pan was created by this man, J.M. Barrie. In 1902, he wrote a book called The Little White Bird. In The Little White Bird, that's the first time this character, Peter Pan, ever appeared. And there's a lot here that we're going to go into.
There was multiple Peter Pan books? I didn't know that. Interesting.
In the next video, once we actually talk about J.M. Barrie. But all you really need to know for this part is that in The Little White Bird, Peter Pan is a 7-day-old infant, and he is flying around in this park, and this park has this magical element to it that takes over once the gates close and all the visitors are gone for the day. So this little 7-day-old baby basically is flying around, and this little baby, Peter Pan, he, for some reason, had magical powers. He flew out of his window, flew around, and by the time he went back to his house, his mother already had a new baby and the window was closed. So Peter Pan, that's why he doesn't have a mom in the original story, The Little White Bird. But I'm going to skip over
Weird.
the little white bird for the most part because this 7-day-old version of Peter Pan is not super recognizable to what we know Peter Pan to be later.
Yeah, you tend to grow up and change, I guess. It's so weird.
While the book, The Little White Bird, was not very popular, the parts about Peter Pan were popular. So then J.M. Barrie decided to go ahead and start
Because what?
adapting that
Well,
further.
that's interesting because I always wondered, like, what, how did Peter Pan get there to begin with? Because I almost thought that he was just a product of Never Never Land or whatever. I thought he just was there and somehow like figured out a way to fly out and get other, the Lost Boys to come back with him or something. I don't know. But I didn't, it never dawned on me like how he got there,
When I do my next video on J.M. Barrie, you'll see how potentially Peter Pan might have been a grooming story for these children, in my opinion. In 1904, he adapts it into a stage play, and this is called Peter Pan, the Boy Who Wouldn't Grow Up.
Like you notice how like Christians are like obsessed with like child stuff like that. Like it's like the whole QAnon thing, they're just obsessed with it. And it was like in conspiracy theorists specifically, but like a lot there's a ton of overlap, obviously, right? From like Christianity to conspiracy land, right? And it was like I was just watching this thing, and Jim Brewer has lost his goddamn gourd, man. He is just completely out there. And he was talking about what is he talking about? Oh yeah, he was talking about the Pinocchio. And he was saying like they go to the Pleasure Island. He's like, they go to Pleasure Island and they don't come back, little boys. And it's like they stole their innocence or whatever. And I'm just like, yeah, because they turn into fucking donkeys, man. That's part of the story. They end up they do a bunch of stuff they're not supposed to do, and then they turn into donkeys because they're giving in to whatever, like doing all the things that little kids want to do that they shouldn't be doing or whatever. And that's why the the more modern one like took out all the smoking and drinking. And so it didn't even make sense really because they're like, oh, they break clocks, so that's bad.
Originally, J.M. Barrie wanted to name this The Boy Who Hated Mothers, but there was pushback from the people who were helping him, so then it was changed. So then he wanted to call it Peter Pan, the Little Boy Who Couldn't Grow Up, and then that was changed to The Little Boy Who Wouldn't Grow Up.
Okay. We're already on part 3? Wow.
In 1911,
this?
this stage play gets adapted into Peter and
13
Wendy,
minutes,
also
okay.
known as Peter Pan and Wendy. So in this novel, this is the Peter Pan and the story we would recognize today. So you have Peter Pan, Wendy, the Lost Boys, you have Captain Hook, Tinkerbell, the crocodile that bit off Hook's hand, who ate a clock, so he's always ticking, Neverland, all of it's here, but a much more dark and disturbing version of it. All versions of Peter Pan.
I mean, that's pretty common with those old stories, a lot of the Disney versions like take out like really weird, gross shit. Like the one, I think it was Cinderella, and they were talking about like, how like the sisters, the stepsisters or whatever were like trying to get the shoes on, and they were like cutting off their toes and stuff to like fit in it, and like one of them cut off their toes, and then another one like took some type of rock or something and filed down her heel to try to fit in. It was pretty brutal, man.
Are very much based around this novel. On the surface, one of the big differences is Peter is much younger than he's portrayed. In the Disney films, he looks like he might be a teenager or close to that age, but in these earlier books, he was much younger, somewhere between 8 and 10. Now, in the books, you're kind of unsure what Peter is exactly. They only describe him as being between and betwixt a bird and a boy. In the book, Peter Pan is described as wearing an outfit made of skeleton leaves.
That's like an old word we don't use anymore, betwixt, unless you're talking about eating a whole lot of candy, I guess, of a certain brand. Like I am betwixt right now. Had 4 of them.
And in these early depictions of Peter Pan, he is playing a flute, sometimes to small animals. And another thing in these pictures, in these early depictions of Peter Pan, is that you'll see that his hair almost looks like it's tied up or that he has small horns. And this seems like it might be far-fetched until you look and see that he's playing a flute for small animals that are dancing, and that there's actually chaos all around them. There's basically a battle that's about to happen.
What?
And when we take all of that evidence...
What is he talking about? Oh, here, Spooky said, J.M. Barrie gifted the right to Peter Pan to Great Ormond Street Hospital, a famous children's hospital in London in 1920 29, the evil bastard. Yeah, I mean, it could just be that he was just like a nice guy that wanted to help, kids that didn't have, parents and stuff or whatever, like who knows? It could be anything. I mean, it could be what he's saying too. I don't know. But they always seem to jump on the most dark interpretation you could possibly have with this. I mean, and just listen to the background music. It's just like it's like a creep fest, It's just weird, but that's interesting. And so he opened a children's hospital. So he's not all bad. If he did, well, I don't know. What else? I don't know.
And more, and put it together. He looks a lot like the Greek god Pan. Now, first off, his name literally is Peter Pan. So
Yeah,
Pan
and
also
that's
plays
the
the
point.
pan flute, and he's the god of shepherds and flocks, which makes sense why Peter would be playing to these small animals. So another thing about the god Pan is that he enjoyed and could cause panic and chaos. The word panic in English actually comes from Pan. And Pan would really revel in this chaos that he created. It was almost as if it was fun for him. So one thing that Peter Pan...
Because wasn't Pan like the first like rendition of Satan or something, or like it was like one of the other versions of like a Satan or something? But really, he was more like a trickster, And they, of course, they make him into like this evil being later or whatever. But like, there's like the trickster god, the mischievous one,
and Pan seemingly have in common is that they both will cause chaos for their own entertainment, which will make more sense in a moment. And they can be very cruel when they're pursuing their lusts. And then we see that Pan is depicted with these small little horns that kind of look like small ears.
And if you want to pursue your lusts, you go to adamandeve.com and put in code word Brentley, and you can you get you get all 50% off almost any one item, and 3 free gifts, one for him, one for her, and one you'll both enjoy. And you'll get 6 free DVDs, and it's free shipping on the entire order if you put in code Brentley. That's BRENTLY at checkout. And get your butt some stuff. Get your butt some stuff to do butt stuff with your butt. All right, I'm just gonna. I don't really do the long ads. I try to move it right along. You know what I'm saying?
Ears, just like Peter's. And then we also know that Peter
still do it though. Go to adamandeve.com, put in code word Brentley, BRENTLY at checkout.
Goes out and he will fraternize and hang out with mermaids and sirens. And a lot of the early art, there are depictions of him doing this, flying over.
Why are they all playing with bubbles?
With the mermaids on the rocks. But
that's weird. What the fuck? So they got like little bubbles going on here. Okay. That'd be fun. So they can make bubbles come out of the water. Look at this kid's like playing with. It's like, oh, bubble. Look at the bubbles.
Creatures were feared by humans. So the fact that Peter is seemingly unaffected by them, it's almost as if he is something more than human himself, akin to maybe some kind of supernatural creature or god. And that's why he can hang around with these mermaids and sirens. Peter using his flute.
You can't hang around.
To make these small animals.
You can't hang around sirens and mermaids unless you're a god. Okay. I'm unfamiliar with the hangout rules of goddom.
Dance in this art is very reminiscent of the Pied Piper. In the story of the Pied Piper in Germany, there was a piper that came along, and he came to this town that was having this huge rat infestation. He told the people of the town he could get rid of the rats if they paid him, so they agreed to that. He played his flute,
you know what it is?
Lured all of them.
Back in the day, like the one thing, and we still do it today, it's like that. It's the stuff with kids, like it freaks people out because it's scary, I'm taking the kids. I mean, like the Slender Man is like a new version of like these types of scary creatures that take kids away, right? And it's like supposed to be like scary stories, right? And like more recently they're doing this movie, I can't remember what it's called. I think it's like Blood or just Thirsty or something like that, where the kid like has to drink blood. It's like really twisted looking, but like that's scary to a lot of people. That's why they make those stories. They're meant to freak you out, campfire stories.
The rats out of town, and he lured them into a river where they all drowned. The piper then goes back to this village and he asks for his money, and the villagers refuse to pay him. So then the piper uses his flute to lure all of their children away from the village into the water where they also drown. And it's weird when you look at the elements of the story and the way everything unfolds.
The moral of the story is, if a magic being does you a favor, pay the motherfucker.
Look at it through a different lens. It's actually quite disturbing.
Oh, we're on the part 5. Was there a part 4? Wait, okay.
Peter has been breaking into Wendy's room and sitting at the foot of her bed each night and playing his flute. One night while doing this, he's caught and his shadow abandons him.
Peter Pan then bursts into their room, waking them up.
I always wondered about that part. It was like, fucking what, man? Like, what kind of acid trip was this writer doing, man? Like, oh yeah, and then his shadow runs away, and he's like, I can't leave without my shadow, and you're just like, fucking what, man? Like, what are you even saying?
Shadow's gone away and is somewhere in the room, and that they need to help him find it. Which, just looking at that at face value, that's very much something a groomer would do. Right? It's like I lost a puppy. Can you help me find it? Or any of those things that they teach.
Why does this dude have this on the brain? That was not where my mind went, but holy shit. Okay, dude. You seem to be a little bit preoccupied with this shit.
So the shadow back on him, so he has her make physical contact with him. Then he tells the children about this magical place called
Aren't
Neverland.
they both kids? Wait, aren't they both children? What is happening?
Because there's mermaids and there's pirates, and he makes it sound really fun. But the text lets us know that Peter is actually trying to lure the children away from their house.
And then he tells Wendy that she can play mom to him and the other Lost Boys. But when the kids get to Neverland, first off, Tinkerbell is jealous of Wendy immediately, and she does something which almost causes Wendy to be killed by a pirate. The only reason Wendy doesn't die is because she has an acorn necklace.
Because you gotta clap, and then you clap. Wait, that's something else. I don't know.
Peter gave to her, but she had to kiss him to get it. Again, you're seeing like these very groomy things come out over and over throughout the story.
What?
And then when the
was the
children
groomy?
get to
Wow,
Neverland, Neverland is not this amazing place that Peter sold it as. There's actually a perpetual war going on between pirates and these Lost Boys. And mind you, these Lost Boys are
Sounds
children,
awesome.
and
What are
so
you
these
talking about?
children are fighting against full-grown adults. So Peter is luring these children to come fight as child soldiers in his army. And Peter Pan doesn't need the extra help. He started this war. As far as the book says, he started the war between him and Hook when he cut off his hand. So then he drags these Lost Boys in to come fight full-grown
This is
adults.
really. Oh, this is the strangest reading of this story. So you're telling me that the entire time this story has been remade and remade and remade. They messed up and made made the bad guy of the story the good guy, and Captain Hook is actually the good guy, and he was just minding his own pirate business when Peter Pan came and chopped off his fucking hand, fed it to an alligator with a clock, I guess, at the same time. I don't know why that happened. And now he's the bad guy the whole time. What the fuck? It's so weird.
As children. And as you might expect, some of the Lost Boys die. So as they're in this chaotic world, some of the Lost Boys start to be killed by pirates. But the ones that aren't killed by pirates start to age. And everyone is very confused about this except for Peter, which he then turns on them and murders them. And that's the trick of Neverland, is the reason you don't age in Neverland is either because the pirates kill you or Peter does. And this is the quote from the book talking about when the Lost Boys find out that they are still aging. The boys on the island.
Now I'm like so curious. I want to go back and read this fucking book. It's like, what the hell? Like this whole, so everybody's the bad guys except for the kids that get lured into this whole situation.
Of course, in numbers, according as they get killed and so on. And when they seem to be growing up, which is against the rules, Peter thins them out. That's right. If you don't die by the pirates in Neverland, Peter will kill you himself. And this whole point has actually brought up books and movies, and a lot of
What is the point then? What's the point of the book? Don't go with the kid that's telling you to go to a magical place. I mean, okay.
Hypothesize that the pirates that they're fighting against were previous Lost Boys. If Peter tricks people into coming here and fighting against the pirates, and he's going to kill them at a certain point when they age, it's possible that some of these Lost Boys defected and joined the pirates, and they're now trying to kill Peter, who is their enslaver and captor. So there's even a movie and a book about how, what if Hook was actually the original Lost Boy, and he was Peter's favorite Lost Boy? Because another big part of this is that Peter Pan says that the Lost Boys were all orphans. But that's not true. We know that he went and got Wendy and her brothers and brought them there, and now they're part of the Lost Boys group. It seems as though Peter goes and he tricks children into running away from their families because he hates mothers. Remember, it was originally called The Boy Who Hated Mothers. And so while you're in Neverland, you forget about your life before.
This is so strange. Like like, why did this guy do so much reading in on this book? Like, he's like so crazy about the like this story. I wonder if it's and I bet you because remember Michael Jackson was like a creeper and he was into that. I wonder if he'll bring that up because he was like obsessed with Peter Pan and he like brought the kids to his like literal Neverland thing. I wonder if he's going to tie that in somehow.
Don't remember anything before Neverland. That's another part of the trap. Peter tells you can leave, but you can't leave somewhere if you don't remember where you came from and you think you've always been there. And then he tells you after a certain point that, no, you were just an orphan and I took you in. And then he tricks little girls to come in and become the mothers for him and these other boys that he's tricked to be there. The entire thing is absolutely insane. And while this is going on, Wendy and her brothers, their parents are crying.
I mean, it's already the whole story to begin with is pretty fucking insane. I mean, a lot of these old, like, fairy tales or whatever you want to call them, like, they're fucking weird, man. They're just like shroom trips that they wrote down.
Absolutely devastated because their children have been abducted. They're not having fun. So originally at the end of the book, the kids do happen to remember their parents. They had completely forgotten about them, but they remember while they're having a conversation. And they all desperately want to go home. So they immediately start flying back. And Peter flies ahead of them and puts bars on their windows so they cannot go home. And then once he sees how devastated the parents are, he takes the bars off the windows. The children are reunited with their parents, and the parents adopt all of the lost boys. And then there's an extra
And it's
chapter.
like Peter learned his lesson, right? Isn't that sort of the thing? Is like, stop trying to make people do what you want them to do for you. And he's like, okay, I'm a good guy now.
That J.M. Barrie wrote but didn't include originally, but in later releases it was included. And in the final chapter, we see that Peter Pan comes back every generation, and he takes Wendy's daughter, he takes Wendy's daughter's daughter. So it's a generation of grooming these children to take them away.
He keeps on adding in the grooming thing. That is not, it's like he's getting the kids to fight in the war. That's not necessarily like he's adding this whole level, and he's a kid himself the whole time. So it's just, it's weird that he's adding this whole level.
If you're still not convinced that Peter Pan is somehow evil, when the biographer Andrew Birkin was working on the biography for J.M. Barrie, he was allowed access to his early versions of the script, as well as his personal notes about Peter Pan. And what he found is originally Captain Hook was not in the story at all, because Peter Pan was actually the villain. Peter Pan in these earlier versions was much more cruel, and J.M. Barrie recognized that Peter Pan was the villain. No other villain was needed. But then later Captain Hook was added to the script and Peter Pan was lightened a little bit, but we still see all of these villainous traits that he has. And honestly, looking at it objectively, he has no positive traits. And my last piece of evidence was when Andrew Birkin was looking through J.M. Barrie's work. He found that J.M. Barrie, in his notes about Peter Pan, described Peter Pan as a demon boy. So as you can see, there is an insane amount of evidence.
So that's your evidence of the whole thing. Yeah, dude, people do like earlier scripts for books and stuff. Like they go through multiple drafts and stuff before they land on like the actual story they really like. And yeah, the details like this change all the time. Like that's not uncommon at all in story writing.
That Peter Pan not only could be, but is evil. He was the original villain of the story, and not only that, he's still the villain. It's just that over time we've been groomed by the story, so we don't even see it for what
we've been
is.
Groomed.
And
you are obsessed with this groomed thing, man. Like you need to let this go.
Thing that it makes me think is Peter Pan, does he look as he presents, or does he present as a young boy because that's the easiest way to get children to follow him away? What does Peter Pan actually look like?
Is that
Maybe
art?
He's some kind of entity, demon,
You like
alien,
did the AI like give me Peter Pan as a demon, please? All right, there we go.
What have
AI
you?
generated.
And this
What the
thing
fuck is
can look like whatever it wants,
Jesus.
sort of like your Pennywise the clown.
The
Ultimately,
final
after doing all of my
conclusion. I thought that
research,
was-
I am convinced that Peter Pan is actually a demon. And that's right in line with the actual author's notes.
I feel like that last one was a leap. Am I wrong? Like I feel like that was he just like jumped to demon. All right, there we
on
go.
the subject. So like I said, I'm going to do another video where I go into depth about the author, and then we're going to look into what happened after that. And unfortunately, the story is extremely tragic. But I think that's where I'm going to leave this for now. But I hope that you enjoyed this video. Please let me know in the comments what you think. Maybe you know more evidence that I've missed. Let me know down below. Also, like, subscribe, and
sounds
share
like you're
for more like this.
weirdly obsessed with grooming and weirdly obsessed with this book to the point of like going back and finding early drafts of it to like draw your conclusions from. That was oddly, oh wow, that was really strange. What a weird fucking trip that was. Holy shit. And it reminds me too of those old videos of like that always did the Requiem for a Dream soundtrack. And it was doing like and then always like it was like either that or it was like the one song from The Matrix with it's called The Woman in the Red Dress, and they would just always play that, and a lot of times it was just words would come up on the screen with like this scares them, and they'll put like some images. And I remember I saw one about all the people that supposedly like died after 9/11 that knew too much. It was just ridiculous, you know? But it's just funny how they work in those kind of that soundtrack to like, ooh, it's scary. Peter Pan, it's not even a real thing, man. He's a made-up story. Like, he's a made-up character. Jesus. All right, what is Vanessa Hudgens talks to demons? Okay, that's interesting. True origin of Goliath and his brothers, Nephilim explained. That's always fun, Nephilim stuff. Oh, that seems like that's the same guy. I wonder if that dude wasn't even a Christian. I mean, I think it just might be that I watched so many demon videos, stuff about demons, that now fairy tale characters are getting mixed in with this type of stuff, you know? It's just kind of interesting. Let's see what we got down here. More Tim Pool, of course. He's always everywhere. 3 signs you are going to heaven. I feel like I already did that one. What do we got here? Churches are being lied to by worship leaders, and they got a big evil face. How long is it? 15 minutes. All right. Let's see what this is.
So this is an article Christianity Today put out, and I'm just like, man, what are we doing, Christianity Today?
Come on.
And I got my thoughts about it, which are probably going to be way less nice.
Worship music. I mean, dude, it's so funny when they actually say true things about themselves and then they get mad about it. Obviously, worship music is emotionally manipulative. Is this really a secret to anybody? Is anybody like, whoa, hey now? Like, yeah, the chord progression that they use is a very common chord progression that is very uplifting sounding. I don't even, it's used in like a ton of, like Green Day like uses it over and over and over again. Blink-182 uses it a lot. I know I'm listing punk bands, but that's for the most part all I listen to. But oh, hey, Andrea's here. Hey. Is that a video of a microwave can of Tab soda? I don't know. Oh, in the videos? I must have missed that. Let's see. It said, they're just now realizing the music is manipulated, and they're late to the game. That's not it. I know, right? Oh, Jesus.
Worship music is emotionally manipulative. Do you trust the leader plucking the strings? And it goes on to say how they were, somebody was leading worship at this big conference, and they were being told in their ears, bigger, lift your hands higher. And it just basically drives home, the short answer is worship music. The short answer is worship music can be manipulative, can move and manipulate emotions, even shape belief. Corporate worship is neurological and physiological. Martin Luther insisted that that music's ability to move and manipulate, it made it a singular divine gift next to the word of God. Luther,
well,
only music deserves.
So let me go. Let's say a quick story. So I felt this one thing. I remember like believing that I felt the Holy Spirit, right? And I was at church, obviously, and they were doing a worship song with one of those chord progressions I was just talking about, and it felt like the Holy Spirit was like, oh, it's me. And like later, I deconverted and I stopped believing in that stuff, but that experience always kind of lingered with me. Like, well, what about that experience though? And I went to see probably one of my favorite bands. It's NoFX. and they have a couple. There's like the one song called "Decline." It's like a 20-minute song, and it was just an album and a song all in one. And they played, I think, the whole song. Sometimes they only do parts of it. Anyway, and there's a really kind of emotionally like uplifting kind of sounding, like just really kind of intense emotional music, you know. And I remember hearing that and then feeling the same feeling and be like, oh, weird, I'm feeling the Holy Spirit at a you know, at a concert with a Jewish band who are atheists, you know. Like, so that's weird, right? And it's just like it just kind of snapped me out of that whole sensation of going, but what about that experience? Because I'm like, it wasn't anything magic. It was just the way music affects you emotionally. And it does really, it gets in there and just like, whoa, just like brings you up, makes you feel good and stuff, you know. That's why we love music as a species, you know. So it's not surprising in the least that they use that as a manipulation tactic, right?
Deserves being exalted as the mistress and governance of the feelings of the human heart. Even the Holy Spirit honors music as a tool of his works. That's a banging quote from Martin Luther, obviously, right? Singers and
It's
songwriters
banging.
use
That's what I was
tempo and
thinking.
dynamic changes, modulations, and varied instrumentation to make contemporary worship music engaging, immersive, and yes, emotionally moving. As worshipers, we can feel it. Songs with lengthy interludes slowly build anticipations towards a familiar hook, or the band drops out.
Yeah, have you heard It Smells Like Teen Spirit, man? I mean, that just bangs every time. Still listen to it. It's great.
Out, so voiceless sing out when the choir
It's soft and
hits.
it's hard. Yeah.
Plus, the lyrics themselves can cue our behavior. I'll stand with arms and heart abandoned. There are valid, interesting questions about the particularities that give contemporary worship music its renaissance, wild conventions of secular love songs, and pop ballads, or association with the aesthetics of high energy arena rock concerts by artists like U2, Coldplay, for example. But current concerns about the manipulative power of worship music seem to have less to do with music styles and taste than with people and institutions involved in the making and performance of it.
What was that
question I should have been asking on stage is not whether the music was manipulated.
Comment here. All right, so let's see. Andrew said, at one point in my life, if I had that experience, I would have thought that those feelings I was having meant that the music was holy, or the musicians were Christians or something like that. Yeah, it's intense, you know. The feeling is so intense that I see why you know, people get moved by it. I mean, that's what makes movies compelling, right? Like, imagine like if you saw like I mean, one that stands out to me is Endgame, you know, the big fight at the very end of the Avengers movie, and that music is just powerful. It just sounds so, it just brings you right into the movie, and you feel like you're right there with them because the music is actually what connects you to the narrative, you know. It's like that's why movies would be terrible without music. It would be like the whole thing would feel fake and hokey, you know.
Manipulated, but whether those of us responsible for the worship set were trustworthy and stewards and shepherds of the experience. And so it goes on to just be redundant and basically say worship is manipulative. So I want to hear from you as a worship leader, because here's my issue with this.
God,
First
he
of all,
looks
this
like
is
a worship, that he just is. Wow, that is white evangelical worship leader all day. That right there. Like, this is basically the character that Adam Devine plays in that show, the Holy Gems or whatever. That it's so funny.
Definitely riding on the hype of the Hillsong Secrets of Hillsong series, and how bad Hillsong is, which there's a lot of truth to that. But
even a reference into one of their songs on there.
Referencing one of their songs on there, right? So I think they're definitely writing that, which there's
I remember my brother's a worship leader, and I remember him showing me Hillsong for the first time, and he was like, you know, I was like, who is this? This is, you know, I was still a Christian at the time, and he was like telling me about it. He's like, oh, that's Hillsong. We're basically all using all their songs now. They write a bunch of their, you know, bunch of the music that is basically used by all the churches and everything. And it's just like, yeah, it was, and they were very emotional. They figured out that little, whatever it is, that little tweak to make it that much more emotionally grabbing. and they needled at it, you know.
On the channel already, but I find it interesting that they would say that about worship music and not say that about music.
Yeah,
music. Yeah.
Like, why not say that about Taylor Swift? Why not
because
all of
because music isn't just telling you to it's not trying to draw you to believe a thing, right? Worship music is specific to bring you to their belief system that they then talk about after the music is played, and then a lot of times they play the music at the end to reinforce that their religion is the correct one and their doctrine is the correct one and their denomination is the correct one, and so on and so forth, up the ladder of they got everything right.
Music is intended to stir your emotions, to create an
I mean,
environment where you.
Does anybody need to know that? Like, is that new information to literally fucking anybody? I mean, I guess the emotion, the worship music being emotionally manipulative is not news to anybody either, unless you're someone who goes to church every week and doesn't get it. They actually think that is God touching them. I probably shouldn't use that word. It's God making them feel good. Yeah, this is just not. It's not working. Never mind. All right, moving on.
Connected.
Moving on.
That literally is how all music is.
Come on,
all music is.
Oh,
and Christianity today
Calm down, dude.
wants to write an article about how Christian music. How about music is emotional? It's a gift from God.
Come on, man.
And in the wrong hands, it could be told. Encourage people to do weirdo satanic stuff.
Come on.
It could tell people to be hedonist and talk about WAP, which I've still never heard WAP. Praise the Lord, but I hear about WAP.
It's awesome. You got to check it out, man. You got to check. It's amazing. In fact, you know what? You should listen to the song and then go hear Ben Shapiro recite it. It's delightful. It's just delightful.
You see what I'm saying? Like, so it's like
he says wet ass P word.
Like, music is intrinsically emotional, yet these goobers want to single out worship music as if like
real talk.
Worship music, like musicians are intentionally manipulating the church instead of saying we're humans with emotions. As the church, wouldn't it be smart to speak to people both emotionally and logically through the word?
Hold on, wait. So wait, is it not true or is it good? Because you can't have it both ways, man. They go from it's not emotionally manipulative to it is, but that's okay. It's amazing.
Okay, that's my rant. What do you guys think about this?
If somebody's pulling the strings, if this man is pulling the strings, get him, champ.
So, I mean, the difference between manipulation and leadership is motivation.
Woo!
Right?
Come on.
So, like this understanding of.
Wait a second. The difference between manipulation and leadership is motivation. That's wow. That's something that could really only be uttered from somebody that's this deep in delusion, in religious delusion. That's incredible. Okay.
Like, I want to lead people in spirit and truth and to connect with the King Most High, who is, I believe, present for the praise that we bring him.
Come on.
Then how are you going to act in that moment?
Yeah.
I was leading worship one time. I was all sweaty. I'm pretty animated.
It's a beautiful thing.
Sometimes I thump my chest.
It's a beautiful thing when he gets all sweaty. I just say, part of me starts to feel kind of funny below my belly button. And
I run around, jump around, and that's all I'm really accessing.
And if you want to feel funny below your belly button, go to adamandeve.com and put in code word Brentley at checkout to get 3 free gifts, 6 free DVDs, and free shipping on the whole order. Almost any item you get 50% off. Anyway, I'm just messing around. I already did the thing anyway.
Is that idea that there is a present God for the praise that I bring him, and it should reflect like it. There was this one person that came out to me and said, "Hey," after church, they're like, "Hey, you're the sweaty guy up on stage," and I'm all, "Yo, that's me."
What is with these sound effects, man? This is the weirdest. So this is basically, and this is wildly popular. This show is huge. I'm pretty sure it's in the millions. I could be wrong, but I want to say it's in the millions of oh no, okay, I'm sorry, no, 186,000. I'm thinking of somebody else, but that's still pretty big, right? I mean, that's a pretty large audience there. But they just sit around and talk like it's like Tim Pool, but the Christian version.
You got me.
Yeah.
And he's like, what's the deal with all that? I'm all, well, God's alive. God died and he's alive.
Yeah.
Like,
what?
That's
how do you say that sentence? Because God died and he's alive. So that's not contradictory at all. That's
Big news. And
What,
so
man?
let's have a big response for that big news. And so,
hey, you want to see something kind of crazy? Over 75% of the
my branded merch. Yes, that's right. Is it Brentley branded merch from Adam and Eve? That's right. It's Brentley. Oh, well, no, I guess it's not particularly branded, but you get my special offer. Actually, we all get the same offer, but you know, it's special though because it's my name when you type it in. That's pretty much it. You know, although I would, you know, maybe I should gun for making a signature Brentley dildo.
The people that watch this channel are not subscribed. Please consider subscribing and turning your bell notification on so that you don't miss anything we have going here.
if we have any kind of like creativity to bring and we're not bringing it to church, if we're not bringing creativity and passion
Is he saying
into our
creativity?
praise,
Creativity. Oh, creativity. It's great.
but we're putting it elsewhere, I think that's a dark thing, you know. And so I love music because of three things and how unifying they are. I say this a bunch. It's got melody, which is the notes we sing, you know. Then it's got rhythm, which is then when we sing those notes. And then it has lyrics, especially in the context of the church. And the words.
I love it when like religious people just say like really basic stuff and they're like, man, it's not profound, dude. It's like music has lyrics, beats, and melodies. I mean, you wouldn't know that if I hadn't just said it. Just admit it. Okay, admit it. You never even thought about that.
As we're saying.
Jesus.
And so the notes that we're singing, when we're singing them, with what lyrics we're saying, as a community, how unifying is that activity?
You're just
So
describing
that
music.
in itself is such a beautiful unifying act that the body of believers can do. And so if we bring like tools to that,
Anybody can do that writes music, man, because that's music. Or anybody that just sings something that was written. They're doing it.
that situation, like a pastor brings humor when he teaches the Bible, or when a pastor uses an illustration to make a point that Jesus is making. Like these are things that we can bring our intentional creativity.
Is making, or like, oh, because he's saying like Jesus is teaching through. Okay, never mind. I got it.
Too, or we can bring our excellence or skillful. Like there in Psalm 33, it says, play skillfully and shout for joy, which is an emotion.
Right.
Like this idea of if we can bring all of that intentionality and with the motivation of making much of the God Most High who is present for our praise, that's called leadership to me.
Come on.
Wow,
But if we're trying to,
they're just regular fucking philosophers over here. You know, it's like, wow, I never thought about it that way.
create a reaction, raise some money, and point to ourselves, then I think that's dangerous.
That's where the manipulation comes
Right.
in. Yeah, I think the issue with
Oh, he
articles
brought
like
it.
this is it just
I don't think that was what he was saying. Because look at his face. He's like, oh shit, I was off topic. Oh man, I didn't. Yeah, but he's like, okay. And so remember the manipulation. That's what we're talking about. We're just you're going way off, bro.
it's a hasty generalization fallacy. Like you take the worst of the worst situations, like a Hillsong, and then you just broad stroke every worship leader and lump them all together instead of looking at it as an objective.
I didn't realize he like knew about fallacies and stuff. That's awesome. Yeah. So he's into logical fallacies, you know. That's good
thing. We have songs for the national anthem. We have like you talk about singing words and melody and lyrics together about the unity that we have. Like we literally have
Just
the
saying.
Star Spangled Banner. Like
just saying the most basic stuff about music.
Like what are we talking about? You know,
I know. I was wondering.
And then we get up and do a pledge of allegiance. We put our hand over our heart and we do a pledge of allegiance.
I don't, because that's fucking weird. You know, I think it's strange to pledge allegiance to a flag, man. That's fucking strange. I don't know why we ever started that and why we kept doing it.
To a flag.
Yes.
To a flag.
Yes.
But singing songs to Jesus. But singing songs to Jesus is emotional.
Still weird, man. Yeah, when you're singing music to a dead guy on a stick, yep, that's fucking weird, man. And that you pretend to cannibalize in ritualistic fashion later, yeah, it's all weird. It's weird, okay? Just as weird as pledging to a flag.
Like, what are we talking about? And by the way, even if there are institutions that are corrupt, that doesn't mean that God doesn't move through those institutions and redeems people onto them. Meaning that I'll be very specific. One of my
that is like the motto for the corrupt church right there.
good friends, John Clash, he's a Christian YouTuber as well, got saved going to Hillsong, New York City in the middle of all that stuff.
Wow.
And loves Jesus. And that was the front door that God used. And then he got plugged into a different church. So even in the midst of just not good things happening, God can still use very flawed individuals to redeem people onto himself.
I love this. I love the hype man over here. Yes. What are you doing, dude? It's like, He just like keeps on and stuff.
God will be praised.
Hasn't said anything.
God will be God
this whole
And
time.
so the idea of angels and creation, they're all being utilized for a purpose of worship.
Dude, exactly. Andrew wrote it out. Creativity, yes. that's what I'm saying. It's that's how they said it. Like I almost want to say crayon-tivity, like is maybe that's where the word crayon came from. I don't know. I don't know the etymology of the word crayon. So
We have the benefit and the duty to be the ones to choose whether or not we're going to participate in that song of praise. You know, that creation is compelled to do, and the angels are compelled.
This guy is just, I feel like he is just getting irritated because this dude's just going way. He's not saying anything that they're talking about.
Down when you're leading worship, like, because it sounds like you're really coming from a shepherd's heart. Like, what is when you're on that platform, and this is people are coming in. A lot of them are.
This dude looks high. He's like, yeah, man. You know, totes, bro. Like, what is he doing?
Showing up late. you're starting the set. This is kind of the beginning of the evening at the J. Like, what is your heart and what is your vision for what you do?
So I want to create a space where there can be altars for living sacrifices to come and to participate in the praise that
Do
is.
they not hear how fucking demented that sounds? Like, I just want to bring altars for living sacrifices to drink blood. I mean, to
to our God, and so I believe that there's an encounter that we have that God is present for worship. And so I want to make opportunities. I want to make every opportunity so obvious that people can participate in that. But there's going to be people who have no idea that are looking from the outside, even though they're on the inside and they're welcome to be there. They're going to see it and go, what's this all about? So I wanted to hit a few things. I wanted to be honest and truthful. I wanted to be passionate. I wanted to be excellent for all of those things, because there's going to be people
I see, look, they're cutting him out too. Like, he's just going off talking about stuff, and like they're supposed to be talking about how worship, like churches are being lied to by worship. That's the theme, and they're like having to clip this guy out because he just keeps going off on he gets into script brain and is just like saying stuff that has nothing to do with, I don't know.
that have
I
never
feel like he's way off
experienced
topic.
God's
Maybe I'm
presence
wrong.
before, that aren't even going to know what those set of words mean. So I want them to know that at this church, we believe our God is worth good music.
That's good.
And so I love including people that are skillful and that can also jive on that spiritual, understanding that we're going to be flexible here, because I believe that God shows up and sometimes we need to change the plan. So, spirit and truth, I believe, is the call.
What is he talking about?
And then the verse in Psalms, you said skillfully praise, what is that? Shout of joy.
Play skillfully and a shout of joy.
Come on.
For the word of the Lord is right and true. He is faithful in all he does.
Yeah.
The Lord loves righteousness and justice. The earth is full of his unfailing love. By the word of the Lord were the heavens made, their starry hosts by the breath of his mouth.
Come on.
Hey, okay, let me just jump. You said this man has a
You
shepherd.
guys are hilarious. So he's like read a Bible verse, and it gets clearly a psalm, whatever. It was just like supposed to be poetry, right? And then it's just like boom. Like, you're like, man, totally. I felt that. I felt it.
His heart. Yes, like he does it from the stage.
Oh, he's
but
talking.
Also, if you try out for a team and maybe there's work that needs to happen to help you get a little bit.
Yeah,
this man comes alongside of you and is like, let's work. Let's do it together.
Come on.
Let's do it together. Like, how do you want to get better? Where can I help you get better? He shepherds from the stage, and he shepherds right next to people off the stage to get them ready. Like, that's one of the things about, that's why I was like, just go do your thing.
I feel like this is just people getting on, getting in front of microphones that don't have anything to say. You know, I mean, not that I do, but it's, you know, that's sort of the point. But like, wow, they're just they're just saying nothing. Like, it's so weird.
Just tell the people about Jesus and worship.
That's
like
good.
it's because he leads, man. He leads us into the presence of the Lord. And
He leads, man. This dude is fucking stoned.
I like to call this man one of the hardest working men at North Coast because he worships. He leads worship. He leads teams. Leads songs.
He worships like hard, man.
Songwriting teams. He loves Jesus.
Yeah.
And it's an honor and a privilege to serve the Lord alongside this man. Seriously, man. I don't mean I'm sorry. I love you, man.
Yeah.
Well, I think like the idea
Sorry,
of
Rose.
lavish, you know, like or extra to go extra for God to
Yeah.
lavish costly
Go
perfumes
extra
like
for
in the New
I need that T-shirt. Go extra for God.
Testament where
Yeah.
where the disciples
That,
were
you know, that probably is already a shirt there.
curious at why the woman
Yeah.
was using such resources in
Yes.
such a costly way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think like it's worth the lavish praise. You know, God's worth the lavish
Oh, now
praise.
now I
Jesus-
feel like they're defending, like, because people criticize us for spending too much money on this fucking light show on the stage. That's like a damn Kiss concert, you know. And so now he's like making a little defense of like, it's okay though, because God, he's worth it, bro. He's worth us spending the millions of dollars that were donated, you know, that these poor people give us to, you know, waste it on a bunch of bullshit, you know.
Jesus
Because God,
he
man.
died, rose again, and knows us as friends.
Yeah.
And that makes me want
He loves righteousness. The Lord loves righteousness and foreskins. That's right. That's and if you love foreskins, go to adamandeve.com. I'm not doing a third ad. All right.
to say.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think there's something to understanding facts and information from the scriptures.
Yep.
There's something powerful about narrative and stories and parables. Jesus always used them. And there's something powerful, obviously, about being engaged emotionally, which is what music is, you know? So I think it's like trying to create like a binary as if you could only pick one.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, no, we want all of them. Like
Yeah.
we want all of them. We want to engage people honestly. We don't want to manipulate people, you know, like
Yeah,
like
the fuck
you're not
you
gonna,
do. Yeah, you do. You want them to come believe your fucking thing. And you're doing it by being like, look how true our God is. Don't you feel those chills? This is a song that we wrote for you to feel chills so that you'll believe mine, because my thing's the right one. Fuck those Catholics over there. They don't know what the fuck those hymns. Do you really think the Lord works through that? No. He works through millions of dollars worth of stage performance.
gonna do the worship song right before the offering, and then you know what I mean? Like, you know,
Yeah,
it's like you're not gonna do that
yeah.
sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I guess churches.
Oh,
maybe
that's where
some
you draw
churches
the
do
line. Like, oh, make sure you wait for the offering. That makes it okay. Okay.
do that. Maybe that's a different conversation. But I think it's like why would we not want to engage people? Like if the objective for me, which is an important objective of let's get people to worship the Most High God, right? Which is an amazing objective. Wouldn't I want to come at it with everything? I'll use a parallel, and this is a flawed metaphor, but I'll say it anyway.
Dude, they're all, I mean, if you got them in there enough, they're just going to do that anyway. Like any church, you can have some dude go up with an acoustic guitar and they're all going to be believing that they are worshiping the Most High God. Okay. It's really strange when they like turn this into like, oh man, we're making this whole big show is so that we can get people to do the thing that they were already going to do anyway.
The objective for me is I have a gym studio, and in the gym studio, I want people to be transformed physically as to bring glory to God with their temples. Wouldn't I want to tell interesting stories?
Oh, because that's okay. I'm like, fucking what are you talking about? I'm thinking like somebody then like their houses maybe, but like or like their churches. No, he's saying that their bodies being temple. I got
parables.
You got
use narrative.
You got to. I've watched enough of these now to like pick up on all the dumb little things that they say that don't make sense, but make sense if you like know all the weird Bible verses that they're referring to.
Also give them the facts about health and nutrition and what happens.
Yeah.
Also play some upbeat music so that when they come in, they're excited and they're going and
none of this is for money at all. I'm sure, you know, it's all for free, just to get people to whatever improve the temple of God or whatever. Yeah, that's it, buddy.
Tempo inspires them to work. Like I would want to hit it from
Yes.
every
All
angle.
angles, yeah.
Every angle.
Yeah,
Right.
every angle.
I
yeah.
mean, you could have a gym where it's just it's
It's
dark
just silent.
a dark
It's
hole,
just dark,
who's
silent.
coming a dark
one?
hole.
No
the
one's
heat
going.
is on, and one rock that you have to lift over and over again. Yeah, you should be able to do that, just like we should be able to follow Jesus with just the text.
Right.
But
Right.
like God made us to react and respond this way.
And to go back to my gym
To
illustration,
react
which is
and
definitely
respond
flawed,
this way.
the community aspect of it all
Yeah.
makes it more exciting if folks.
It's yeah, man. Totes, bro. I just took it a lot.
Are together doing a
Come
program.
on.
We're doing this 90-day challenge. We're not eating sugar for 90 days, and we're gonna work out together, and we're gonna do this, and we're gonna go on walks. It
Wait, was he
becomes that
saying
much
it-
more interesting.
Was that a metaphor about the gym thing, or was he saying that was actually that he actually has a Jesus gym? Because I totally heard it like he actually has a Jesus gym, and he's just like, also relating this to that. But was that all purely a metaphor? Weird. I don't know.
to have the
This is so
breakthrough in your
weird
fitness
watching
you're
these
looking for. How would we
Very
not
true.
want more than that? To your point, lavish more than that to the God of the universe.
Amen.
So in a similar way, but
Amen.
maybe also a flawed metaphor. But like going on a date with my wife, I want the vibes to be good at the place.
Come on.
That
You don't want to sit close to the kitchen.
Yeah.
smells. You can
I
smell
want
the
the waiter
bathroom.
walking past me. Don't sit me near the kitchen. Don't sit me near the bathroom.
Put me near the coast. I want to see the water.
Right.
The lights are low.
Come on.
The food is good.
Come on.
And so I
Yeah.
think my wife and I, we love each other.
Yeah.
We don't need that stuff, but it really creates an intimate environment where we're able
Absolutely.
to have different kinds of conversations.
Is this just like them like repeatedly making arguments for music in general? Is that what's happening here? I'm getting lost. They're like, hey man, we want like music to sound like good, man. Like, what do you really? That's your whole defense for the fact that churches are lying to people or manipulating people through the worship. Okay, got it.
Yes.
So
And
confused.
so I think in the similar way at church, people are like, why are the lights so low? It's
Like I feel like this would only be convincing to people that like already believe in Jesus and everything, and are just like mad with them at that article, which was actually pointing something out that is something that Christians I think don't like to think about, is the fact that it's manipulative, and they have been manipulated, and they're continuing to manipulate themselves on purpose by gaslighting themselves into believing that they are having a relationship with the all-powerful God of the universe, and he is making them feel the chilly chills when they play the same 4 chords over and over again.
like sometimes it's hard to get to that spot where you're able to feel like you can be honest with God.
That's
We,
good.
we use what we have
That's
with
good.
the technology.
It's in
that
your
we have.
brain,
We-
man. What? How what you're lying to you? You're lying to him in your brain. You got to be honest with him, man. Don't try to lie to him, man. He knows he's in your he knows your thoughts, and you're like thinking lies to him. What are you talking about?
Use it to bless the Lord
Yeah.
Amen.
and to
That's good.
open folks up to it.
Hey, this is a segment from our daily after party stream. Consider partnering with us online for
that's
as little
what
as
this was.
$5 a month to get access to these daily after party streams
Oh, man.
completely.
We'll have to do that. Yep. Totes. Well, hey, thanks everybody for watching. I think I'm gonna wrap it there, and we will be back tomorrow with something. I don't know what's going on there. Yeah. We'll be back tomorrow with something else, or I don't know, another day. I'm not sure how it's gonna work, if we are gonna do a stream tomorrow, but I might. We'll see. Oh no. Oh wait. Yeah, I got Elliot coming on tomorrow from the ACA. Elliot. Or Secular Rarity. That's what he goes by. So we're going to be hanging out and reading a Christian article, and be basically doing the same kind of thing, but we'll be making fun of an article instead of a video. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And sometimes the articles have videos in them, so that makes it even more fun. So thank you so much for watching. We will see you soon. And if you want to, you can go to patreon.com /unapologetics. It's like the word unapologetic, but with an X instead of a C. And you can, and also check out the Unapologetics podcast, where I do the articles. That's where we record the articles. And yeah, and check that out. And I got a more recent video up of a conversation with Aaron Ra, if you want to go back and check that out. And yeah, so we'll see you around. And we will, let's see, we'll stay logical, loving, skeptical, and compassionate. Y'all take it easy.